I'm sure you're wondering just one thing about Silksong above all else. Is it worth the hype? Well, finding out for you was quite the struggle. If you've been following the game today, you've probably seen the state of Steam servers. If you've tried to get the title yourself, you probably hit the same wall that I did. I was in class staring at the clock on my laptop waiting for 10 a.m. I knew I wasn't going to play it immediately in class, but purchasing it and installing it would have been a nice start. I had the Steam page pulled up and ready to go, I just had to refresh it at 10. I was instantly disappointed when it wouldn't load, but not particularly surprised. Essentially, every time I tried again, every 5 to 10 minutes or so, while admittedly half listening to my professor, I got about one step further. At first, I couldn't load the Steam storefront at all, then I couldn't load the page for Silksong, then I couldn't add it to my cart, and then I was stuck trying to continue to payment. Even as I'm writing this right now, I am actually still waiting around for the next thing, because I can now continue to payment, but it can't accept my card. That's right, I started writing this before I even owned the game, let alone installed and played it. Again, this didn't come as a big shock to me, and it really isn't that big a deal, but nonetheless, I thought it was worth sharing. On with the video. Alright, well I just checked out the game for about 30 minutes to gather my first impressions. I didn't get to play the game until about 1 o'clock, 3 hours after release. I wanted to get this video out quickly for everyone, and I also have another class coming up today, so I tried to limit my time. I'm sure I'll put out a full review once I beat it. Nonetheless, my very first and most important impression is that Silksong is definitely Hollow Knight 2. Thus far, it has not strayed too far from its predecessor. Now, I'm sure that it will feel further removed from Hollow Knight as I gain more abilities and mechanics, but the setup is rather similar. It opens with a cinematic, pretty much what we've seen in the trailers, and then throws you in to explore. The movement is pretty much the same, which I mean, no complaints there. I usually talk at great length about platforming when I'm talking about any game that is, well, a platformer. I've probably compared whatever game it is that I'm talking about to Hollow Knight on multiple occasions. You may have gotten the impression that the platforming in Hollow Knight is some of my favorite, which is absolutely true, and Silksong doesn't change the core movement and jump timing pretty much at all. It doesn't feel exactly the same to me, but I might just be tripping because I haven't actually played Hollow Knight in a while. Nonetheless, I'm not going to dive deep into the platforming like I did for Celeste or for some of my indie highlights. I'll just say that it is pretty much perfect for me. That is a huge start for any platforming game. It also has a healing mechanic in which you charge up a meter by hitting enemies to then heal, but it is fairly different. Hollow Knight has 3 charges, so to say, that you can fill up and use separately. Silksong's meter, at least by default with no upgrades, is 1 charge that instantly heals 3 HP at once. I honestly think I prefer this mechanic more as far as healing goes, but for spells or any other kind of skill the game may introduce later, I'm not so sure. As a first impression though, I would say that I like this change. Beyond a few other small changes, the core gameplay with no upgrades or extra skills is essentially the same. Although Silksong does add a few platform mechanics that aren't present in Hollow Knight. Specifically, you can grapple ledges to get to slightly greater heights than you would be able to otherwise. I like this addition in that it already adds something new at the beginning of the game. After playing Hollow Knight as much as I have and getting so used to everything you have at the end of the game, starting a new file is almost daunting in a way because you know that you'll have to play without all the fun upgrades for a bit. Silksong still starts off somewhat slow like that, but just one more little feature goes a long way. Additionally, it also changes the down attack that the knight has to more of a flying strike downwards. It sends you rapidly down and at an angle. The attack itself didn't prove too easy to use, but it felt cool to do so I continued using it nonetheless. Just because of the angle, it can be a little hard to line up your attack correctly, but you could see it as an element of skill to improve upon as you play through the game. A mechanic involving trolley lift cars was mentioned, though not operational yet. I imagine this will serve as the game's stag stations. A character you meet also informs you that they're a traveler in Farloom and that they're actually going to the same place as you, so I assume that they may be something of this game's quarrel, though I may be wrong on that. My point is that it seems that this game will follow a lot of the same tropes and mechanics as Hollow Knight. That being said, I do feel that Farloom is going to offer some new stuff. Within the first 30 minutes, I've already met and talked to more NPCs than I can recall from the first few hours of Hollow Knight. This kingdom may not be as empty and desolate as Hallownest. Obviously, I can't say too much, I haven't played through the game yet, so it's not like I can drop a lore video right here. If you do watch the channel though, you may know that I enjoy the occasional dabble in Hollow Knight lore, so if I feel so inclined and you're interested, I will probably make Silksong lore videos in the future. Anyway, I can't take away too much from the first 30 minutes of the game, but I can say it looks like it'll be a treat to play. I have been worried this whole time that they would change too much and it would be too different and worse, or just that it would be downright bad in general. Now, I do not want the exact same thing as Hollow Knight. I probably wouldn't complain if that was the case because more of my favorite game couldn't possibly be bad, but it would definitely feel somewhat lame to me. Nonetheless, a quick play of it earlier definitely gave me the sense that it will be a sequel that is faithful, but has not only small changes, but just overall more content in general. I haven't really followed the development of Silksong since probably 2021 or 2022 because I kinda just lost interest in clowning over every direct, so maybe all of this stuff was already obvious before release, but I honestly didn't really know what I was getting into until I played it. Overall, I would recommend checking it out for yourself. The release of Silksong seems to be some kind of internet culture phenomenon, considering the complete downfall of Steam servers earlier today. The anticipation of its release is definitely in part due to the lack of communication from Team Cherry over the past few years, but that is not to be outdone by how the anticipation also speaks to the captivating success of 2017's Hollow Knight. I can't wait to complete a whole playthrough and write an entire review.